My name is Maggie Hasten. I've been married for 10 years to a husband who is an elite businessman at a major corporation. Due to his job, he often travels for work and is rarely home. When I was younger, I used to feel lonely without him and would cling to him when he returned. But now, his neurotic behavior is unbearable. He is excessively neat, to a point where I believe any woman would keep her distance. That's what I used to think. However, when he returned from a business trip, he brought home a mistress and a hidden child. What he said was, "Get out, you're just freeloading." I was stunned. Leave. I've decided to live with my mistress. You're no longer needed, he said. His manner was calm but final, his gaze cold. I have endured such treatment from this husband. Even if you suddenly tell me to leave, I don't have any money. You can't even do household chores properly. Why don't you just get a part-time job and earn some money? We have 2 young daughters in elementary school. Chris told me to not work while the kids are still in elementary school. Because it's sad if they come home to no mother. I understood that sentiment and didn't want to make my children feel lonely. Also, I was scared to go against my husband's orders. So, I did as my husband told me and stayed at home without working, living as a full-time housewife. But this life was never easy. Every month, I struggled to manage our finances and kept trying to save. I would spend money on my husband and children, but there was none left for me. I kept telling myself that. Yet, once, due to our insufficient household budget, I suggested that we both work. However, I was furiously scolded for it. Are you saying my earnings are insufficient? Are you mocking me? But, there are many couples who both work. But? Are you talking back to me? How dare you speak to me like that as a wife? If you can earn as much as I do, I might forgive you. But even if you do, managing the household is still your job as a woman. That's an impossible expectation. No matter how hard I try, suddenly starting to work won't match the income of my elite husband. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. There's no way I could earn as much as you. Good, you understand now. Listen, a woman should manage her life with her husband's income. If you can't do that, you're failing as a wife. Never bring this up again. Whenever I say something, I get scolded. If the house isn't tidy when my husband comes home, he yells. If dinner isn't ready immediately when he returns, he won't speak to me. It's like living as a maid, a slave. I thought I was still fortunate because my husband cared about his family. Looking at social media, many people struggle in their marriages. Lack of money, a husband who doesn't work. A husband who cheats. I thought I was still better off. Above all, we have our children. Before we got married, my husband talked about his father. His father was hardly ever home, and when he finally returned, he brought other women. If they complained, both his mother and he were beaten. That's why he swore never to cheat or be like his father. He told me this while holding me close. So, he was supposed to cherish our family no matter what. However, in recent years, he changed. Women's shadows flickered around him, making me suspect he might be cheating. When he returned from business trips, he smelled of perfume and laughed sneakily looking at his smartphone. Or walked out of the room when he received a call. Once, I casually used the word cheating. Then my husband exploded in anger like a raging fire. When did you say I cheated? Because I'm always on business trips? You think there's another woman? How stupid can you be? If I had any free time, I would obviously be working. I'm trying hard for our family. Yet why do women always talk about such nonsense? Fearing he might hit me, I just kept apologizing. I hadn't even said a word about him cheating, but he yelled as if he had been accused. I thought, scary. My husband is scary. Our children have started to lock themselves in their rooms whenever they see their father and try to avoid facing him. Moreover, he comes home late every day. I cook food that might not even be eaten and end up throwing it away. If there's no dinner when he returns, he yells again, and it frightens the children. To maintain peace in the home, I've had to suppress my feelings. I wonder when the peaceful times became only when he wasn't around. It would be better if he wasn't here at all. A part of me has always repeated that. Whenever I watch dramas about divorce, I am engrossed. I wish I could get a divorce too. When I hear about people who have divorced, I even feel envious. Why can they divorce so easily? If possible, I too would want to separate. But if I mention divorce, I would surely be scolded, yelled at worst, maybe even hit, and possibly lose my children. Ultimately, I can't take action even though I wish he would disappear. Since my elite husband cares most about how society sees him, he would think that a divorce would affect his career advancement. That would mean losing my children. That's something I absolutely wanted to avoid. So, I couldn't say the words divorce. Now, here he is in front of me, with another woman and child, telling me to leave. Telling me to get a job and earn my own money. I felt my mouth twist in resignation. Being freed from all I had endured. There she was, a woman who took joy in taking my husband from me. If she's willing to be the sacrifice, I'd gladly divorce. Is that, you mean I should get a part-time job? Yes, it's only natural you earn your own food. But even if you work, there's no place for you to sleep here anymore. From today, you'll sleep outside like a stray cat. I see. I am no longer needed. That's right, you are not needed. A brainless woman like you is useless. Someone like me, an elite, needs a more capable woman. I understand. If you say so, I will leave. Go on, hurry up and leave. I stood up and pulled out a document from the drawer. It was the divorce papers I had written and thrown away many times. I wanted to slam it in front of him but had been too scared to do so. Yet, I still wanted to separate. How many divorce papers had it been? But now, I could finally confront him with it. Here, this. What's that? It's the filled-out divorce papers. All that's left is for you to sign your name. He looked at me, surprised. Then anger appeared on his face. Usually, he would start yelling and raise his hand. But now, he couldn't do that. Because his mistress was there. He couldn't show his true self in front of her, not yet at least. At least, not until they are married. So you intended to divorce, huh? He feigned calmness and smirked, his lips twisted. So, you were just after my earnings, huh? It's not like that. I thought, all I ever wanted was your kindness. Right? Since you had this prepared, it must mean you wanted to leave because you have another man, right? It's the same on both sides then, huh? Do you think I've been cheating? Yes, exactly. Otherwise, you wouldn't have prepared such a thing. I've been stupid, huh? Trying to consider your feelings and waiting for the right moment to bring up divorce. I thought, what? Well, now everything's clear. To think you were secretly seeing another man while looking so innocent. You're quite something. I was, with you. What? Do you have a problem with me? Ah. Your attitude annoys me too. You always look like you're the weakest. You never deny anything no matter what you're told. You're like a doll. How terrible. I'm just too scared to speak. Yet anything I say would be met with shouting, amplified 100-fold. He thought of me as such just because I remained silent. But it's over now. I don't care anymore. Since you have a child over there, I'll take my children with me. Fine by me. I have a son here. Girls are useless anyway. Is that so? Then I will take them without hesitation. And when you say leave, does that mean the three of you guys should live here? Of course. I bought it, after all. Is that so? Well then, here's a housewarming gift. What's this? It's the deed to the apartment. Upon realizing it's the deed, he smiled slyly and accepted it. By handing this over, you're saying you give up any claim to our assets, right? Yes, I don't need it. I'm not giving you compensation either. After all, I've been supporting you up to now. He looked at me as if it were obvious. He had no intention of giving compensation or child support. You're such a foolish woman. You say you can't even live without me. You wouldn't have had such a good life if it weren't for me. You don't understand that, trying to get a divorce. How stupid can you be? You really are shallow. That's true. Well, that suits me better. It's unbearable if you nag all the time. Even though I've allowed you to live like this, it's arrogant to be told off by you. The only good thing about you is that you don't talk too much. It's not that I didn't want to talk, I just couldn't. Even now I want to say something, but there's no point, so I don't. I told the children it was time to pack their things. The children looked anxious. But being left with their father would be even more frightening for them, so they shouldn't complain. True to that, the children began to gather their things quietly. As for me, I went to the bedroom and picked up my luggage. It was the suitcase I had packed before, when I once decided to leave. I thought, that time. I stopped myself because of the children. Never thought it would come in handy like this. The children also packed their suitcases to the brim, stuffing their school bags full of study materials. Hey! Get out quickly. Please wait a bit longer. It's cruel to rush the children like this. What's so pitiful? If you're going to leave, better do it quickly. Chris was saying this while he seemed to be happily playing with another woman and child. I thought, so, he wanted a boy. He doesn't even want his own daughters. I was watching my husband absent-mindedly and thinking about this. I thought, if that's the case, maybe I should have brought up divorce earlier. And yet, I endured desperately. He said he wouldn't cheat, but he did. And even had a child. I feel like a complete clown. Once the children were ready, I headed for the front door. Despite it being the end, my husband felt nothing and didn't come to see us off. Having nowhere else to go, I took the children and moved back to my parents' house. My parents were shocked, but my sister, who knew everything, hugged me silently and said, "Welcome back." When I told my parents everything, my father was furious and my mother cried. "What will you do now?" "I'm sorry, but please let us stay for a while. I'll find a place to live as soon as I can." "That's not what I meant. This is your home, Maggie, you can stay as long as you need. What I mean is, are you really going to let Chris do as he pleases? He just bought that apartment. No division of property, no compensation, that's just not right. He wanted to buy that apartment. And he was the one paying for it. But paying off that mortgage must have been really tough, right? You managed because you worked so hard." Indeed, the apartment was on the 30th floor of a high-rise tower. And the mortgage was overwhelming. My husband's salary alone could never cover it. As expected, life became even harder than before. Yes, truly, it was hard because of that apartment. That's why I said I needed to work, but he wouldn't even allow that. When I said we didn't have enough, he told me to borrow and pay anyway. It's ridiculous, it was all just for his own pride. After all you've been through. Yes, I did my best. It was really hard. I had to make sure Chris's meals were perfect, or I didn't know what he might do. Are you really not going to ask for child support or compensation? He said he wouldn't give it. He cheated. You know you can get compensation for that? I know I could get it, but I just don't have the energy to fight him. I'd rather just part ways quietly. To that extent. My sister murmured understandingly and didn't press further. But my feelings changed with a call to Chris. What? We're divorced. Don't contact me. I know that, but the children left something important behind. What? What did they forget? It's their hamster. Can I come pick it up? A hamster? Yes, the hamster is an important part of their family. What family? Ridiculous. I expected Chris to say that. He had always thought of the children's things as mere toys. He wouldn't think of anything non-human as family. You say that, but to the children, it is family. Family forgotten? If it was family, they wouldn't have forgotten it. That's true, but under those circumstances, we were hurriedly packing. And they took their study materials, but forgot the hamster. So, it was an unnecessary existence, wasn't it? No, that's not it. They only remembered this morning that they had forgotten it and were very sad. Please, let me just pick up the hamster. No. Why not? This house isn't yours anymore. I understand that. I'm not asking for the house back, just the hamster. I said no. But you're being persistent. I froze. Flashbacks of everything that had happened hit me, and I was overwhelmed with fear. But I couldn't let fear get in the way for the sake of my children. I'm sorry for being persistent, but it really is important. Important? It's ridiculous to come and get it now. It's not like it was long ago, it was just yesterday. It's a small thing. It's useless. Useless? What do you mean by useless? I've already thrown out all your stuff, including the hamster. Thrown out? How can you throw out a living thing? You're saying you threw out something that's alive? If you left it behind, it means it was unnecessary, right? Keeping such things would bother her and my son, so I threw it away. You can't complain about that. I couldn't believe it. How could he so casually dispose of a life? You can throw away my stuff. But I wish you had at least asked our daughters if they needed it. There's no need for that. The moment you took them, they ceased to be my children. Why should I care about someone else's children? How can you say that? Aren't they still your children even after a divorce? Listen. If it was important, you wouldn't have forgotten it. Anything left behind was not important. It's normal to think it's okay to throw such things away. But they are just elementary school children. What? Are you defying me? It's not about defiance. How can you be so heartless? Sure, as adults, we can accept that we left it and move on. But they are just children. How can you not have any compassion for them? As I was on the phone, my daughters were crying big tears next to me. From the conversation, they understood that the hamster had been thrown away. It wasn't just the children's tears, but the outrage at Chris's disregard for life that was infuriating. The children are crying because they think their forgetfulness led to their pet being treated as trash. So what? So what? If you really want it that badly, just buy a new one. That's not the point. That hamster isn't just replaceable with another. It's just a rat. Why should I care about such a thing? Give me a break. Just a thing. Even though it's a life. Enough about life. I don't have time to worry about you guys. If it's so important, it's in the trash, so go pick it up if you want. But the garbage collection is already over. Indeed, that's true. Today was garbage collection day at the apartment. And the garbage collection time had long passed. All I could picture was the hamster being thrown into the garbage truck. If you understand, then stop nagging. It's all your own fault. Explain it properly to the children and make sure they never forget anything again. Explain. Well, you probably can't do it right, huh? You're a woman who can't even educate properly, can't do housework, can't even be a good mother. Everything you do is just useless. The kids are growing up without even basic common sense. That's not true. Isn't it true? When I come home tired, you just stay locked in your room and don't come out. Normally, if someone is supporting you, you should come out and greet them. You can't even teach them that much, it's because you're incompetent. That's because you're tyrannical. These were words I had never said before. Words I was too scared to say. But now, after the divorce, we are strangers. Why should I care what I say now? It's because you are always yelling that the kids don't want to be near you. The problem is all yours. What? Use polite language with me. Why should I use polite language with you? We are strangers, aren't we? Why should I respect someone who continues to act tyrannically and speak unreasonably? That's ridiculous. What did you say? It's the same with the hamster. The children were soothing their hearts with the hamster because you are the worst as a parent. And you even threw that away. It's not just some item, it's a life, unlike clothes or books. Don't you understand that? Are you out of your mind? You. Who do you think you are talking to? I'm talking to you, Chris. You, a man full of elitist consciousness. Who cares only about how the world sees him? Grr. I won't forgive you. I wanted to part ways quietly. But I will never forgive you for making the children cry. After yelling, I hung up the phone, my heart pounding as if it was going to burst out of my chest. The daughters who saw me were surprised to see a different side of me than before. But I must raise and protect these children on my own. I have to be strong. That was the moment I resolved to do so. And at that moment, I decided I would make Chris's life a living hell. Once I made up my mind, I started taking action faster than I thought I could. And sure enough, a week later, Chris contacted me. Hey. What is this supposed to mean? Over the phone, when he said this, there was no way I could know what he was referring to. This? What are you talking about? I mean this. Chris is clearly either panicking or just furious as he repeatedly says this over the phone. Chris, I mocked, you keep saying this over the phone, but since I can't see it, I don't know what you're talking about. This only seemed to infuriate him more as he felt mocked. I'm telling you it's this. It's the documents from the lawyer. How am I supposed to know that? The lawyer has sent demands for alimony and child support. I told you I wouldn't pay. You said you wouldn't pay, but I never agreed to that. What? And what does it mean to pay in one lump sum? There's no way I can afford that. That can't be helped, can it? Who knows what might happen? I might even feel like jumping off the terrace of the 30th floor. That would never happen. Humans aren't that strong. Especially not someone who pretends to be tough and yells all the time like you. What? You've become quite bold now that we're divorced, haven't you? Yes, thanks to you. I realized I had to be strong. I'm not scared of anything a woman like you says. Is that so? Just pay up. If you don't, I'll just have your wages garnished. Imph. So, it was all about the money after all, wasn't it? You're pathetic. Well, I can afford this amount, that's not the issue. But what's this about? This again? I've received a bill for a mortgage. I understand about the mortgage, but it's really high.
Ah.
That must be because the unpaid amounts have been added up and billed. Unpaid? Didn't I tell you? The mortgage on the apartment was too high to pay. You said to borrow if necessary, but I didn't want to, so I just paid a part each month. And had the rest billed the following month. But it's impossible to keep up every month, so of course, it ballooned. What a stupid thing to do. You should have worked then. Oh, didn't you say that managing on a husband's earnings is a wife's job? When I said I wanted to work, you completely dismissed it. Don't you remember? It's strange, isn't it? You say not to work because it would make the children lonely. Yet you throw away their hamster, which was a source of comfort to them. As if that thing could be a source of comfort. That's how you destroyed everything. Take good care of your new family. After saying that, I hung up the phone. I had said what I needed to say, and the consequences of his actions had caught up with him. So I should be content with that. I sighed lightly, convincing myself that it was the right thing to do. However, a few weeks later, Chris contacted me again. Hey, I can't pay the mortgage. And? Can't you help me? You're working, right? You went back to your parents' home. So you must have some money? After all the ways he mocked me, such a foolish thing to say. I struggled to manage, but I couldn't pay off that mortgage every month. But you, being so capable and elite, should be able to manage, right? The mortgage you left unpaid has ballooned. Well, that can't be helped. That mortgage isn't something even your elite salary could handle. But you, being so elite and excellent, shouldn't have any problem, should you? After all the mocking you did, asking for help is a joke. Besides, you have a wife and child, you'll manage somehow. That's just it. I can't. Well then, why not sell the house? If I do that, she and my son would hate it. They both love this apartment. Well, I'm not inclined to help someone I'm divorced from. Don't say that. Let me tell you something nice. What is it? You told me not to work, but I actually have been working. Ever since I realized you were cheating, I thought it might end up like this. And that income? It's quite substantial. I just can't stop laughing. You're lying. Then give some to me. As if I would. Why are you telling me this now? Because I want to enjoy seeing you suffer. You took something precious from the children, so at least I want to enjoy watching you fall into hell. I could hear Chris groaning with frustration over the phone. Afterward, he ended up paying me a lump sum for compensation and child support. Of course, he didn't have that kind of money, it was all borrowed. Now burdened with a huge debt, he was hit with a double whammy of mortgage and debts. His new wife and hidden child, thinking they had become rich, were buying whatever they wanted on credit. Thanks to the monthly credit card bills, Chris ended up suffering. Eventually, Chris had to disclose everything to his family, sold the apartment. And they moved into a shabby apartment. But the woman took the child and left him because she couldn't stand the poor life. I felt my revenge was complete, but further hell awaited Chris. The affair and the hidden child became known at his company. It spread throughout the office, and female employees scorned him, making his life miserable. Finally, losing his place, Chris had to resign voluntarily. Now, he's living on a part-time job. Ironically, as I wondered how it all came out, I discovered that my sister had written a letter to his boss. Meanwhile, I'm still earning a sufficient income. Responding to Chris's words not to work, I struggled with work from home, and it paid off. Now, my children don't have to feel lonely. And we live a peaceful and elegant life in the top floor of a 30-story tower, keeping a hamster.